You're sitting in your car after work and you've got your banking app open on your phone. Your finger is hovering over the screen because you're genuinely afraid to refresh the balance. You know there's a subscription that auto-renewed yesterday. You know you grabbed lunch out twice this week when you said you wouldn't. And you're calculating in your head whether checking this number right now is going to ruin your entire evening or just make you moderately anxious until tomorrow. That sick feeling in your stomach? That's not about the actual dollars. It's about something much bigger. My name is Robert, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, human behavior, and why some people seem to move through life with this quiet confidence, while others are constantly one unexpected expense away from a full-blown panic attack. And what I've noticed over the years is that there's this invisible threshold where everything shifts, not gradually, not eventually, but like flipping a switch in your brain that changes how you see every single financial decision you make for the rest of your life. Most people think you need a six-figure salary or a trust fund to stop feeling financially stressed. But honestly, there's a specific number that creates a psychological transformation so profound that it affects everything from how you sleep at night to how you walk into your boss's office. And it's way more achievable than you think. If you're someone who wants to understand the real mechanics behind financial security, instead of just hoping things will magically improve, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it ends up helping you see money differently. Here's what life looks like when you're living in what I call survival mode. Every single decision you make is defensive. You're not thinking about building wealth or creating opportunities. You're thinking about not losing, not getting evicted, not having your car repossessed, not having to borrow money from your parents again. It's like you're playing financial whack-a-mole, where you're just trying to keep all these potential disasters from popping up at the same time. You know that feeling when you're at the grocery store and you're doing mental math on every item that goes in your cart? Not because you're trying to stick to some health plan or budget you created, but because you're genuinely unsure if your debit card will go through at checkout. Or when your friend suggests going to that new restaurant everyone's talking about, and you have to come up with some creative excuse because admitting that a $35 entrée would completely derail your finances for the week feels too humiliating to say out loud. This constant state of financial vigilance is exhausting. You're running calculations in your head all day long. Can I afford this? Should I wait until next paycheck? What if something breaks? What if I get sick? It's like living in a house where the foundation is crumbling, and you're just running around patching cracks instead of ever being able to actually live in the house and enjoy it. And the thing is, this isn't a character flaw. You're not bad with money. You're just operating in a mode where there's no margin for error, no breathing room, no space between I have money and I'm in crisis. The psychological toll of this is something most people don't talk about, but it's crushing. When you're constantly worried about money, you're not just stressed about your bank account. You're stressed about everything. You sleep worse because your mind is racing through disaster scenarios at 2 a.m. You're more irritable with the people you love because you're carrying this background anxiety everywhere you go. You avoid social situations, not because you don't want to see your friends, but because every invitation comes with a price tag you can't afford. And over time, this isolation and stress starts to feel like just who you are, like this is what adult life is supposed to feel like. But here's where it gets really interesting. Research on financial stress shows that there's a specific threshold where your brain fundamentally changes how it processes risk and opportunity. And that number isn't $1 million. It's not even $100,000. It's $10,000. Yeah. $10,000 in savings creates a psychological shift so significant that neuroscientists can literally measure your difference in stress hormone levels. We're talking about actual cortisol reduction, the same hormone that floods your system when you're in fight or flight mode. When you have $10,000 sitting in your account, you're not rich. You can't quit your job and sail around the world. You still have to work. You still have to be responsible. But something remarkable happens in your decision-making process. You shift from asking, can I survive this, to asking, is this the right move for me? That might sound like a subtle difference, but it changes absolutely everything. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say you're working a job you hate. The boss is a nightmare, the work is mind-numbing, but the paycheck covers your bills, and in survival mode, that's all that matters. You don't have the luxury of being picky. You can't afford to rock the boat. You can't risk losing this income, even if it's slowly destroying your mental health. So you stay. You endure. You tell yourself it's temporary, but years pass and nothing changes. Now, imagine you have $10,000 saved. Same job, same terrible boss, same mind-numbing work, but suddenly the entire dynamic is different. You're not trapped anymore. You have what some people call walking money. You could quit tomorrow and have 3 to 6 months to find something better. And here's what's really wild about this. The fact that you could leave actually means you probably won't have to. When you're not desperate, you negotiate better, you set boundaries, you advocate for yourself, and bosses can sense that shift. You're no longer operating from fear, and that confidence often leads to better treatment, better projects, or better offers from other companies who notice you carrying yourself differently. The point isn't that you're going to quit. The point is that you could. And that optionality fundamentally rewires how you show up in the world. You walk into meetings with your shoulders back instead of hunched over. You speak up when you disagree instead of nodding along. You ask for the promotion instead of hoping someone notices your hard work. This isn't about becoming arrogant or reckless. It's about finally being able to operate from a place of choice instead of desperation.
But let's talk about the math, because this is where things get absolutely wild. If you're earning $60,000 a year and you commit to saving $500 per month, you'll hit that first $10,000 in about 20 months, less than 2 years. That probably feels impossible right now, but stay with me, because here's what nobody tells you. The second $10,000 takes maybe 17 months. Same $500 per month, but you're earning a tiny bit of interest. You've gotten a small raise, you've optimized a few expenses. The third $10,000? About 15 months. And when you get to the really big numbers, when you're pushing toward $100,000 or beyond, that same $10,000 increment might only take you 4 or 5 months. The exact same amount of money that felt impossible to save in year 1 becomes almost automatic in year 5. Your mind will absolutely blow when you realize that the hardest part of building wealth isn't the discipline or the knowledge. It's just getting that first chunk of momentum. It's like pushing a boulder uphill. The beginning is brutal, but once you get it to the top and it starts rolling downhill, the momentum does most of the work for you. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what's the point of having $10,000 if I'm just supposed to stare at it and never touch it? And look, I get it. You've been grinding for almost 2 years. You've been saying no to things. You've been disciplined. And now you're sitting on 5 figures and there's this voice in your head saying you deserve a reward. Buy the car, take the vacation, upgrade your apartment. But here's the thing they don't tell you. That $10,000 isn't a reward for past work. It's the foundation for everything that comes next. When you take that money and spend it on a car payment or a down payment on a house you can't really afford, you're not celebrating your progress, you're erasing it. You're resetting yourself back to zero, back to survival mode, back to that parking lot anxiety checking your bank balance. And the car companies know this. The lifestyle inflation industry is specifically designed to target people the moment they get any financial breathing room. They want you to think that $10,000 in the bank means you can afford a $30,000 car with a payment plan. They want you to believe that reaching this milestone means you've made it, and now you deserve to upgrade everything in your life. But that's not how wealth works. That's how you stay broke forever while looking successful. Think about what you're actually trading off. If you take $10,000 and put it toward a car payment, that's $10,000 that's now locked into a depreciating asset that costs you money every month in insurance, gas, and maintenance. But if you keep that $10,000 invested and working for you, even at a modest 7% return, that money becomes $20,000 in about 10 years, $40,000 in 20 years. By the time you're ready to retire, that single $10,000 could be worth $80,000 or more. Are you really telling me that a slightly nicer car today is worth $80,000 of future security? This is where having $10,000 saved changes your perspective on what money is actually for. It's not for buying things, it's for buying options. It's for buying peace of mind. It's for buying the ability to think strategically instead of reactively. When an opportunity comes along, maybe a friend starting a business who needs investors, maybe a certification program that could boost your salary by $15,000 annually, maybe the chance to move to a city with better job prospects, you can actually say yes. Without savings, you can only watch opportunities pass by and wonder what might have been. And here's what I think is the most underrated benefit of hitting this milestone. You stop obsessing over the small stuff. When you're broke, you agonize over everything. Should I buy the $4 coffee or make it at home? Should I get the name brand pasta or the generic? Should I pay for premium gas or regular? Should I subscribe to Netflix or cancel it to save $15? Every tiny decision feels massive because you're operating with no margin. But once you have a solid financial foundation, you realize that most of these micro decisions are completely irrelevant. The difference between buying generic cereal and name brand cereal for the entire year is maybe $200. The difference between making coffee at home versus buying it is maybe $800 annually. The difference between premium and regular gas is maybe $300 per year. In the grand scheme of building wealth, these numbers don't matter. What matters are the big decisions: where you live, what you drive, how much you earn, whether you invest consistently, whether you avoid high-interest debt. And honestly, this is what wealthy people actually do. They don't clip coupons and obsess over every small purchase. They automate the small stuff and focus all their mental energy on the decisions that actually swing their net worth by tens of thousands of dollars. Once you have $10,000 saved, you can start operating the same way. You stop sweating whether to buy the $12 lunch and start thinking about how to increase your income by $10,000 this year, or how to reduce your rent by $500 a month. You stop optimizing for pennies and start optimizing for thousands. There's something else that happens at this threshold that nobody really talks about. Your relationship with risk completely transforms. When you have zero savings, every decision feels dangerous because one wrong move could financially destroy you. Taking a new job feels terrifying. Starting a side business feels impossible. Moving to a new city feels reckless. But when you have $10,000 behind you, suddenly these same opportunities feel manageable. You're not going to bet your entire emergency fund on some wild gamble, but you might finally invest in that course that teaches you a valuable skill. You might finally start that freelance work you've been thinking about. You might finally have the confidence to ask for a 20% raise instead of accepting the standard 3% annual bump. Look, $10,000 isn't going to make you rich overnight. It's not going to solve every problem in your life. You're still going to have to work. You're still going to have bills. You're still going to think twice before dropping $1,000 on something frivolous. But it fundamentally transforms you from someone who's surviving to someone who's building, from someone who's reacting to life to someone who's designing it, from someone who's trapped by circumstances to someone who has agency and choice. If you can save $500 per month, you're less than 2 years away from this transformation. If you can only save $250 a month, you're 3.5 years away. Yeah, that's a long time. It's going to require discipline. It's going to require you to say no to things. It's going to require you to be intentional about every dollar instead of just letting life happen to you. But I want you to think about something. 3 years is going to pass whether you save this money or not. The only question is whether 3 years from now you're going to be in the exact same financial position you're in today, or whether you're going to be someone who's built a foundation that changes everything. 10 years from now, you're going to look back at this moment, and you're either going to thank yourself for starting, or you're going to wish you had. Your future self is counting on the decision you make right now. Not because some guy on the internet told you to save money, but because you know, deep down, that the version of you that exists 3 years from now deserves to feel secure, deserves to have options, deserves to stop living in that parking lot, afraid to check the bank balance. Start building that foundation today. Trust me, your future self will thank you for it.